But I don't want to borrow $100,000 when they're going to charge me $25,000 to borrow it. So that's where it becomes super unattractive.
Yeah.
But I definitely would tell small business owners, depending on your business, of course, if you're selling trinkets or online stuff or whatever, I would definitely say make PayPal an option.
Yeah. And you're currently in negotiations with your PayPal rates, which is why you're giving them this little pitch. You're going to send them over this I love PayPal rant so that you can get a lower rate. I'm Scott Hess, tax and business consultant.
I'm John Barton, small business owner. Remember the tortoise and the hare? Slow and steady wins the race.
We started Turtlesmith to help people start small businesses, providing information and resources to small business owners and entrepreneurs.
Build a solid foundation and forge your dreams.
This is always annoying to ask, but if you're liking this content, please like and subscribe. It's the best way for us to get more followers and more people engaged in this great business content. You can also follow us on all socials at TurtlesmithOK and find us at turtlesmith.com.
Please like and subscribe.
Hey, man. Well, back for season 2.
Episode 1 of season 2.
It's exciting.
We managed to not get canceled.
Yeah. You picked us up for another season?
Yeah.
We can afford it. I like it.
Well, I was actually thinking that we probably didn't get canceled because we didn't have enough viewers who saw the shit I was saying.
Fair enough. We'll see how season 2 goes. Maybe we'll get some more viewers. Maybe they'll demand we get off the air.
You know, we're going to go viral one of these days, and everybody's going to be like, they're going to be like, man, did you catch season 1 of Turtlesmith?
Don't watch it.
Yeah.
All right, well, what do you got for us this day, Calvin?
Let's see, what happens when the company card gets declined?
So 15 pizzas, your total is $246.38. Great, here you go. Alrighty. Oh, looks like it got declined. Damn it. Okay, hold on. I'll call my boss. Hello? Hey, so I'm picking up our pizzas for our our appreciation lunches, and the company card you gave me is not working. What do you mean it's not working? I don't know. They're saying it's declined. Oh my god. Fine. I'll transfer you to accounting. Okay, thank you. Accounting, this is James. Hey, James. I'm at Alfredo's Pizza Cafe, and the company card got declined. Oh, see, that's actually an HR issue. Okay, can you put me through to HR? Of course. HR, Darlene speaking. Hey, Darlene. The company card got declined. Wait, aren't you picking up the pizzas for the party? Yeah. You have to do something. I can't until you help me with the credit card. Oh, that's actually the operations department. Please hold. What the actual operations? This is Matt. Okay, Matt. I have been transferred to every person in this f***ing company, and nobody has been able to help me with the f***ing company card. Whoa, okay, calm down. I'm happy to help you. Oh, thank you. I'll just transfer you to the financial department.
Yeah.
That actually feels like just about every customer service call that I get onto for anything.
Yeah,
these
that
days.
does, right? That is a mild fear of mine every time I use my credit card, whether it's going to get declined or not. I mean, not so much
Even
anymore,
now?
but
Yeah,
it used to be. Used to be a big fear. Now my limits are a little higher, so I'm not so concerned. But
So I had a deal where I went to a show in New Orleans, and I was like on a super shoestring right there. And as it happens, the freaking trailer blows a tire on the way there, and we have to rent a U-Haul to get down there. So there's an expense. Had to borrow a little money from my girlfriend's mom.
Yeah, you told this story before.
I told this story before. Then I get all the way down there, and then I can't pay for the hotel rooms. We got like one night, and then we couldn't pay for a second night. Yeah. And then my dad had to rent us an Airbnb, and then on top of all that, right, I have I'm debuting this software that we wrote, and it's a wholesale website, right, for wholesalers to be able to easily like a notepad, right. I mean, I'm so proud of it. I spent $40,000 for the whole year to get it all dead perfect, and it works and it's great, and I get an internet drop down there for like $1,200. And I got a little router. I'm going to hook up like 4 computers so people can do their orders and everything. And, I can just, flip between them to do it. And some dumbass from the trade show walks over and sees that I've got 4 computers hooked up to this internet drop. And they want to charge me $200 more per computer, or they're going to yank the whole thing, right? Yeah. And I was like, this is back like in the early 2000s, you know. And and then my explanation to them that this didn't make a difference as far as the bandwidth fell on deaf ears. They were like, that's four nodes. You got to pay for them all.
Yeah.
So I had to go to another vendor, friend of mine, and I borrowed money from him. He paid for that. So yeah. So somehow we made it through that weekend and everything. But it was pretty dicey. So I do know how that feels when the card gets declined.
Yeah, it's just that kind of sinking feeling, like, oh, yeah. Crap.
Now, if you're an employee, and you're out there like this guy, that's just pretty embarrassing.
Yeah, it's horrible. Yeah, you got to sit there, and then the guy's looking like, does this person really have any money? What's he doing there?
Yeah,
getting judged by the sales guy.
I don't know if do you think they get judged so much by like the pizza guy? I think the pizza guy would just be pissed. I just made like $200 worth of pizzas.
I think in like most times in life, I would be overthinking it. The guy probably doesn't care not at all, but yeah. Still in my head, I'm like, I feel bad.
I just wonder though, is that like the guy called the owner, right? And the owner's like, oh, how's that happen? Here, go to finance.
Switch to like
if you get straight to the owner's probably like, give me the guy, and I'll just give him a different card number. That's what I would do.
Yeah, well, he probably didn't get to the owner. That was probably his manager, and then it went to like 8 different people who can't actually do anything.
And that would piss me off. I'd probably just walk away without the pizzas, and
But it was their bonus / appreciation gift. So yeah, bummer. Our first question of this episode, is there any way for me to accept online payments as a small business with no fees? I've just become an LLC and I'm starting to pay taxes as the owner of a landscaping company that started as a side hustle. I used to accept payments on all platforms with no fees and then transfer the money to my bank account with no fees involved. If I link my new business bank account to any of these platforms, will I be charged fees? And if so, are there any ways around this? I don't know about PayPal. I don't know about Venmo and Cash App.
So I think
for a business they do charge you.
Yeah, I can answer this partially. Mm-hmm. So first of all, guy, small business gal. Yeah. First of all, small business guy.
A woman can be a landscaping.
First of all,
expert.
Small business woman.
Yeah, there you go.
Or small business person. All of these questions that you have about what these platforms will charge for business accounts and for transfers and all that are all outlined on their platforms.
Yeah, but then you got to read like all the points and everything. When you could just ask the question on Reddit.
Right. This bothers me to no end. This kind of thing right here, where people ask questions when they could just look it up.
But then we wouldn't have anything to talk about.
Sure we would. There's always going to be stuff like that to talk about. I mean,
all right. Annoyed at that.
Because there's always going to be somebody who asks these types of questions when they could have gotten the answer for us to be annoyed at.
All right.
But
you
anyway,
to be annoyed at. I'm not annoyed.
Yeah, I'm annoyed. So one thing I want to say about this before I get into what fees are charged and how they do it and everything is there's a cost of doing business, right? Mm-hmm. And if you want to use these platforms that accept payments, right? These platforms are not free. They cost money to build. They cost money to maintain. They cost money to keep secure. Mm-hmm. They're handling a lot of transactions and a lot of money. In there. So and they make it really convenient for your customers to pay you. Mm-hmm. So the idea that you would want to use their services and take money from people and do all these transactions but not pay for those transactions, not pay something, I think is just not right.
Fair.
Personally.
Yeah.
Now, having said that, I think some of these platforms, tend to probably take a lot more than what it actually costs them to process these transactions.
Yeah. So
PayPal is a big offender on this. They charge the same fees as credit card companies, 2.9%, 3% for, a little bit more depending on the transaction. Mm-hmm. If you have a business account. So if you have a business account with PayPal, it's like almost every transaction incurs a fee. So that right there, makes it tough to deal with them sometimes because you're going to pay a fee no matter what.
Yeah.
With them. Now, PayPal does have a friends and family
and that's
option.
that's $4.99 basically, no matter how much you send, I think.
No, not necessarily, right? It just depends. They have different tiers and all this, but friends and family you can generally send with no money. You can get it with no money as well. But if they detect, that you're running business transactions through friends and family, then they will just start imposing a fee for that, right?
Gotcha.
So you use it sparingly.
Yeah.
You don't want to. PayPal is very, very meticulous about analyzing their data. Mm-hmm. They know what people spend things on. They know that you're not getting $10,000 on friends and family. Nobody's paying you $10,000 with friends and family, so they're not. They know that it's not likely to be that way. That someone's just hey, here's a friendly loan of $10,000.
Yeah, through PayPal.
Through PayPal. So they can see, from the type of transactions and the patterns and the frequencies, that things that are normally going to be business transactions, right?
Yeah.
So you run the risk, of not only getting charged for that, but you also run the risk of having your funds frozen, because PayPal, for example, can be very heavy-handed, and they can literally freeze your funds. They can completely freeze your account for 6 months, and while they review, your account, and you will not be able to get that money because you signed a contract allowing them to do that in their terms of service.
Yeah, and I don't think anybody reads through all that fine print
they don't.
to really see what's going on.
Yeah,
it's a disaster.
So that's why I say to people who run small businesses, just factor these expenses in and raise your prices accordingly.
100%.
To deal with it, because if you've got a good service, people are going to pay it. They're not worried about the 3%, and if you then go and say, I'm going to mow your lawn for $100, but hey, by the way, if you want to pay me with PayPal, it's going to be $104 or $103. That's just nitpicky,
Yeah.
Just charge the guy $110.
Right, and they'll be
They pay it gladly. They don't worry about it.
Yeah. I do wish, though, that instead of fees, some of these services would just do like a flat amount that you could either pick to do the fees or the flat amount. Like I'd be fine just paying like $200 a month and just factoring that in as a fixed cost rather than a percentage.
Yeah, that might be a good way to go with it. I don't know. Now, so the thing that this guy says here, he says, I opened a business account, checking savings account through Bank of America.
This is the next question.
Oh wait, go back to the previous one real quick. I wasn't done with that. So the guy says, I used to accept payments on all platforms like PayPal, Venmo, Cash App, and everything with no fees, and transfer the money by bank account with no fees. You can still do that. That's not a problem as long as they let you do it.
Yeah, but he linked his business LLC account. Now he's named himself as a business on these platforms, and so I think the rules change.
Sometimes they do. Yeah. It depends, but you don't have to do that. I mean, you could transfer it to a personal account. I'm assuming that the way he's talking here now, this is where your expertise comes in, but he's probably a single person LLC, which is the same as a sole proprietor for tax purposes.
That is
right?
A sole proprietor. Yeah, people get real confused with that LLC thing. LLC is not a tax structure. It doesn't mean anything in regards to taxes. An LLC is just a legal structure. So you can be an LLC that's a sole proprietor, which is just one owner. You can have multiple members. You can be a S corporation, or you can be a C corporation and still be an LLC.
Yeah, I could be wrong about this, but I don't think that like Venmo, Cash App, and all that really care about whether it's a business account or a personal account.
The only thing I know is Cash App's for drug dealers, right? Isn't that where you pay for your drugs on Cash App?
I imagine that a lot of drug transactions do go through Cash App, Venmo, and PayPal.
I've never really used any of them. I've used PayPal, so that's how we pay Jonathan, our editor in the Philippines.
Yeah, there's other ones too. There's Wise and things like that, but these are the main ones. The thing that I want to say is this: in my opinion, right? Depending on what type of business you're in, you want to be able to take all the different ways that people want to pay.
Yes, I agree.
So if you can take Apple Pay, if you can take Venmo, Cash App, whatever, these are all different ways that people are choosing to their preferred method of making electronic payments, right? And they themselves might have different balances in each of those because they're also transacting with other people.
Yep.
So it's only to your advantage to go ahead and use each one of them because the fees for each one of them are going to be about the same.
Yeah, and I agree with your original point that if you like the software and you like the platform, just pay the fee. It's good for you. It keeps everything secure, keeps everything nice and neat. It's the way to do it.
So getting down to the last part of this, right? The guy's like, I'm not willing to eat a 2 to 3% fee, and I don't really want to charge customers an extra 2 to 3%. So it's not an option I'll consider right now if there's absolutely no way to avoid the fees. Is he trying to say if it's not an option, I'll consider, or
no? I guess
it's
he's
not
saying
an option?
that it's not an option to either charge his customers the extra bit or to eat it. So
the convenience is nice, but not worth the price with the current size of my business. Well, what size would it be worth it?
I don't know.
Like literally, what size would it be worth your business to be able to have a convenience for your customers?
Mm-hmm.
You know.
I think at any size.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what I think. At any size, it doesn't matter. It's just the cost of doing business.
Absolutely.
Yeah? And as a business person, you know, spending so much energy trying to get around something is just ridiculous. So my advice would be take everything you can take and do it. Now, he said, I'm sorry, real quick. The next one was about Shopify or something, right?
Well, I think we're on to the next question if you're ready for it.
Okay, yeah, I'm ready for it.
Okay. All right. Accepting payments when starting a small business. I recently formed my LLC for small business, and I'm almost ready to start reaching out to prospective clients, but the last hurdle is figuring out the best method for accepting payments. I have two options as far as I can tell. I opened a business checking account, savings through BOA. They offer merchant services, $25 a month, 2.5% plus 30% for credit cards. And the other one is I could use Shopify, $29 a month. Allow me to much more easily build and maintain an online shop so it's website. And then the credit card rates are 2.9 plus 30 cents. I'm almost leaning towards this option, assuming Shopify allows me to send invoices / receipts. They're both fine.
Okay, so this is the kind of question I do like.
Yeah.
Because these are the kind of questions that are, not quite that easy to figure out.
Now, see, I think they are easy to figure out. I get that it is an extra $4 a month for Shopify, and then it is an extra 0.35% on your rates. But in my opinion, it is whatever the easiest is to use. Whatever you find the most convenient for your business and the easiest is what you should do, regardless of the extra percent. Now, if it was 4% plus $1 per transaction, then you might think about it. But I think those differences are pretty negligible.
They are pretty negligible. The thing is you don't want to get yourself roped into a situation where you are beholden to a particular platform. Where they've got all your data, they've got you wrapped up, all your website, everything's in there.
Yeah.
And it would be difficult for you to move when they decide that they want to raise their rates, because Shopify, for example, could just come up and say, from today to tomorrow, we're going to charge 4.9%.
Yeah, well, that's really about the contract that you sign. And almost every time when you do these merchant service deals, you have to sign a contract. And they're usually for a year or 2 or 3 years, sometimes even, and you're locked in.
Well, that's what I was going to say, is that you're right. Sometimes the merchant services, and that really comes down to their terminals. When they want to rent you their terminals or use their terminals.
Right.
But these days, like I said, a lot of them just have apps, and it's really just a month-to-month type of deal.
Yep.
Shopify, PayPal, things like that. In this situation, I would tell the client, I would say, if you don't need a website per se, PayPal allows you to send invoices as well. Mm-hmm. As does, I believe, QuickBooks does now too, and they also have the ability to accept cards.
They do. There's a lot of invoicing and stuff like that.
Right.
A lot of invoicing platforms out there that are very easy to send invoices and receipts, and a lot of ways to accept payments for sure. But between these two, it's pretty negligible in my opinion. So I'm thinking that if the Shopify offers an easier build to your website and an easier build to do transactions, that's what I would
out of
do.
these two questions, Shopify is going to be the better option if you want to build a website because they offer you all those tools for that $29. Bank of America is not going to offer you that. The Bank of America is a standard merchant services type of deal.
Yeah, and
all they're offering for you is a very basic way to accept credit cards. They'll usually have an online portal where you could go in and literally type it in. They will offer you probably a card reader, like we discussed previously, or that Barclays commercial.
Yeah, or really you can just use your phone, I think now.
Yeah,
with the
and
RFID.
that's it.
Yeah.
But the Shopify in this situation for the extra $4 a month is the better way to go because you're getting all of the web services that go with that. And there have been a lot of successful businesses built on Shopify.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Yep. And you can probably, depending on the size of your business, it's very likely that you can negotiate with Shopify. So, for example, we can negotiate with PayPal. At the size of our business right now, PayPal frequently calls us trying to get all of our credit card business and offering us really good rates.
Yeah, and that'll happen as you get up in sales, and really length of time matters a lot too with those. So if you've been in business for 2, 3, 4 years, then you can start negotiating better deals.
I do want to mention something here that I personally found to be really helpful and important, and that is you definitely, in my opinion, you definitely want to accept PayPal, and here's why. PayPal has a program called Small Business Working Capital, or just Working Capital, where they will offer you loans based on your PayPal history. So they don't do a credit check. You don't have to go through a loan application with a bank or anything. And for my business, that really was a lifesaver way back when I didn't have any money and hardly did anything. My first loan from them was something like $12,000, something like that, and that paid for a show or two.
Yep.
The annualized rate, as you have, shown me, is definitely not attractive, right?
Pretty steep.
But what is attractive is they basically give you a figure, that they're going to charge you for the loan. So let's just say, for example, $12,000. They charge me $1,000 on this, right? Just a flat fee like we discussed earlier, right?
Yeah, sort of, yeah.
And the thing is that they will take anywhere from 10 to 30% of each dollar that you make your revenue, right?
Yeah.
So if you can afford that, you can decide, if you take less, if you let them take less, like 10 cents out of every dollar, then it's going to take longer to pay back the loan, so they charge you more for it. Yeah. If you do 30%, of each dollar, then it's going to be a shorter time, and they just have a whole algorithm that calculates all that.
It can be helpful for short-term cash needs, but the interest rate you pay is, I know it's a flat fee, but it really is an interest rate.
It can be significant, right? But the reason that I say that it's worth it to just accept PayPal as part of your payments that you're able to accept is twofold, right? Number one, it's ubiquitous. PayPal is just everywhere these days. They are literally, even now, still the 800-pound gorilla in the electronic payment space.
Yeah, for sure.
And secondly, their program is completely in-house. So you're dealing with a company that is really easy. The interface is easy. The terms are very easy to see. And it's a very quick process.
Yeah.
You don't. So,
I think as an option for payment, PayPal is definitely great, particularly for online retailers. Yeah, it's great.
Right. I think you should have a balance there where you do accept some payments through PayPal, some not. But we have taken, gosh, I don't even remember now, but maybe $400,000 over the past 17 years.
Yeah, about 15% of your total sales comes from PayPal.
Yeah. So, that just always remains an option. And one thing I like about them is if you actually borrow a small amount, then the interest rate is kind of attractive at
it's not bad.
Like 3 or 4% sometimes. So sometimes you might need a little bridge, You might say, okay, I need a piece of equipment for $10,000 or $15,000.
It's 100% worth it. Yeah.
And then it's worth it at that point, but I don't want to borrow $100,000 when they're going to charge me $25,000 to borrow it. So that's where it becomes super unattractive.
Yeah.
But I definitely would tell small business owners, depending on your business, of course, if you're selling trinkets or online stuff or whatever, I would definitely say make PayPal an option.
Yeah. And you're currently in negotiations with your PayPal rates, which is why you're giving them this little pitch. You're going to send them over this I love PayPal rant so that you can get a lower rate.
Actually, it's funny because I can't actually even get PayPal. I can't get any better rates with PayPal right now.
Yeah.
Not because I'm not eligible for it, because my website is currently on an unsupported version of it. It's outdated.
Oh, yeah. But you're getting that rebuilt. So.
Yeah, I'm getting that rebuilt to the new version, which supports the newest security protocols, and then I will be eligible for those rates.
Gotcha. So in the future, PayPal, check out this little video. So then you can negotiate your rates better.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
All right. Shopify payouts are a nightmare to we just recommended Shopify. All right. A nightmare to reconcile. Anyone found a good solution? We run a mid-sized e-commerce store on Shopify and recently scaled up our order volume, but now we're facing a massive headache on the finance side. Shopify payouts aren't just deposits. They include order payments, refunds, gift cards, discounts, chargebacks, shipping adjustments, and platform fees. And the bank deposits never match the gross order value. Yeah, this is an accounting nightmare, in all honesty. When I get these reports, they are very difficult to reconcile and go through. There is no good way to do it that I have found.
So this goes back to what I was mentioning a moment ago about being tied to a platform.
Mm-hmm.
So when you find, for example, this company here, they thought, okay, we've scaled up a little bit, we've grown, and now this is just impossible to figure out. And it is sometimes impossible with these companies to figure this stuff out. And there is no good solution there, because they're super heavy-handed about how they do it. Shopify does what they do because they feel like that's what works best for them.
Yeah.
The way that they handle moving money from their account to your account, is what's best for them.
And I feel like these online platforms have all been done by developers who've never even talked to an accountant. They've never even spoke to somebody.
Yep. They don't eat their own cooking.
Yeah.
They don't. That's one of the things, like the guys that are developing my website right now.
Mm-hmm.
I told them, I said, listen, I want you guys to look at this like you're the one selling, I want you to look at it like it's your shop.
Right.
And you're the one that's going to have to deal with this, taking payments, all this, and how you're going to deal with customers, And then from the customer side of it, I want you to think about how to set this up so that your grandmother could buy you a pool cue case, on the website, with no problem.
Yeah, and rarely do they do that. But I'm glad you're getting on your guys about that. But this is a classic example. These things that don't integrate. I don't know that Shopify integrates real well with QuickBooks or any other accounting software. I've never heard of this Xorosoft, Xorosoft ERP. I've never heard of that particular one. But yeah, these things can be a nightmare to reconcile. Your PayPal statements every month can be a nightmare to reconcile. I have to go through kind of line item by line item, and I usually can get them to match, but it can be tough, especially if there's any currency exchanges and stuff like that. It really throws my whole day off having to go through those.
Well, you should say something about that. We can try to figure it out.
I usually get it figured out. It just takes me a little while.
Okay. And there are, I think, other tools, where you can import it in, and then they're set up to bring it into QuickBooks.
I have tried a half dozen of those different tools, and all of them are always a little off. They're always a little wrong, and they can never tell me why they're wrong, and so I still end up having to go back through it. And
this, folks, is why you pay an accountant.
Yeah.
Well,
they said even that their accounting team ends up spending hours manually reconciling its payout. That's exactly what I do, and that's the best solution.
Really, what it is Shopify is getting kickbacks from accounting teams all over the country
there
for the extra hours,
just to make it seem more complicated than it really is. Yeah, that's how it goes. Yeah,
but
we're all in the accounting, all in cahoots.
Yeah, I don't have a good. I honestly do not have a good recommendation for these folks. I say just do what they're doing. They're doing research on these bridge solutions.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really know. I don't deal with Shopify because I personally, when I looked into them, did not like all of their terms and the rules and everything that they did.
Yeah, only a couple of my clients use them.
But like I said earlier, I know there's a lot of people who have built businesses on Shopify and who run their business on Shopify.
Yeah.
So you can't really argue with the success of Shopify in that sense. But that doesn't mean that it's not a headache when it comes to parts of it like this. So
Yeah.
my advice would be that if you get to a certain size, build your own website and make sure it integrates with a software solution like QuickBooks or something like that, where it can easily reconcile or export to QuickBooks with the proper labeling, I would say.
Yep. Yeah. My only solution for you is just continue having the accounting team doing it manually. And my suggestion for Shopify is hire a damn accountant in your coding department to teach them how to do the proper reports. That's what that needs to happen.
Well, these guys get so big that you have nothing. They just always feel like they're right. Whatever way they're doing it, they feel like they're right. They listen to all these complaints and they don't care.
Yeah. No, it's 100% true. And like all the POS softwares that we try to pull reports from, they're just a nightmare. Almost all of them are. And there's only a few very simple things that the accountant needs, and none of them really do that good a job of putting them out.
Well, folks, there you go. This is a small business podcast about, starting businesses. So those of you who are, software developers and garage tinkerers, get yourself together with an accountant.
At some point, if I really make some money, I just feel like I need to hire some people to do a full QuickBooks and a full accounting software that really, really can make something happen. But maybe that's just a pipe dream. We'll see.
I don't think it's a pipe dream, but I think it's something that eventually we could hopefully turn into something real.
Yeah, well, I say it as an accountant, but coding is hard, I'm sure. I mean, I know it's hard, so I'm sure when they're trying to do it, it doesn't quite work out the way they hoped it would, and so they just kind of go with what they got. I'm sure that's what ends up happening most of the time.
It could be, but I think that what they're saying right here, the things that they're saying, they could be coded correctly and put into a report that you could import and it would work. I'm positive that is not that hard.
Yeah. You got anything else for us?
No, we're good.
That's it? Well, what's your favorite form of payment that you like to accept? PayPal, I think, is your big go-to.
I mean, honestly, cash is my favorite form of payment because it's like goes right in my pocket and I don't have to really account for it too much,
Yeah, I like accepting checks. I think checks are the best way for me to reconcile books, and that way I always have like exactly who paid me. But I use my credit card for everything. Are you a big credit card user, or you like debit cards better?
I like the credit cards for the points, and stuff like that. I mean, if we're going to have to use it anyway, that's easy. I don't really use the debit cards that much.
I don't
really get any advantage for that other than it's just like paying cash.
Yeah. Dave Ramsey says that that's all you should use. No credit cards. I mean, I think he's right for some people who can't handle debt, but.
So, yeah, I would say that, if you are someone who carries a balance on your credit card.
Yeah.
And you're in that, 17 to 28% interest rate type of deal. Mm-hmm. Then it doesn't make sense to pay $13, $15 for your $10 latte.
Yeah.
But if you're someone who pays off your bill every month, which by the way, credit card companies really hate that, they call them freeloaders.
Yep. I am one of those.
Yeah. So I think if you're able to do that, then it makes sense to pay the cards and get the points.
Yep.
And use those points for things.
Have you ever really looked into the point system and like tried to game it a little bit ever?
I haven't, but I have looked into. I've looked into some of the strategies out there, and I've downloaded a couple of the ebooks and stuff like that on how to do it. And to me, it's like extreme couponing, right?
Yeah. Just higher stakes a little bit with your credit card.
You can literally walk out of the grocery store with $100 worth of groceries for $5 if you want to do the extreme couponing.
Right. Yeah.
And the same thing applies with the points and all that. If you juggle it correctly and manage it correctly, then yes, you can fly first class around the world, stuff like that.
Yeah.
But most people are just not going to make that effort, including me.
Yeah, me neither. But I've talked to some guys who really are experts at that. Kind of extreme couponing is a perfect analogy. But they know how much % they get back on certain things up to certain limits, and then they'll get a balance on a card, and then they'll get those like interest free for a year credit cards that gets points and roll over the balance into that one, and it just becomes a whole game that they end up making some money. I know some guys who make
they can do a lot,
$2,000 or $3,000 a month doing it.
Like my former boss, they put everything on their company card, and they would take pretty exotic trips every year.
Yeah,
and they were putting like close to $1 million a year on their card, so they were racking up some pretty good points.
I mean, I'm not at that level, but yeah, once you get there, you just get a lot of cool perks and bonuses and everything. So credit to me is the best form of payment for anything, as long as you can pay it off.
But I mean, it is contributing, to a world where really these few companies are just skimming off of everyone, And,
yeah, I agree. But I mean, ideally, I guess we should probably all be on the cash system. That way, everybody's not taking a little dime. But
I mean, there's a lot of businesses that would not exist were it not for credit cards, were it not for the ability to accept credit cards and the ability to pay with credit cards. I mean, I got to be honest, when I came over here in 2014, we were like $110,000 in debt. We borrowed from friends and family, and we didn't really have very much income. We didn't have very much in the way of production. We were relatively unknown.
Living off credit cards.
And I just decided to start applying for credit cards. Like I applied for Capital One. I mean, you could, it was all easy. And I honestly did not expect to get anything. I thought I've been gone from the United States for 7 years. Even before I left, I didn't really have good credit. I had outstanding student loans and so on, that were being called in. So, that I don't know if they ding your credit on that, but
I don't know if it affects your credit.
Yeah, I don't know if that affects your credit score or not, but I mean, I don't even know what my credit score was back then. Maybe like in the low 500s.
Well, you probably wouldn't have got a credit card if it was that low, but.
Well, yeah, but that's the thing. I ended up getting approximately $25,000 worth of credit on several different cards. And the story that I like to tell with that is that I went out one night for bread. And at that time, I was literally living in my parents' house with my wife and 2 young kids in one room. And I went out to get bread, literally to get bread. And I just drove a little bit farther and ended up at a car dealer.
This is where you came back with a van?
I came back with a van that I put the down payment down with the credit card that I had just acquired, and I had like $12,000 credit on there, and they accepted that as the down payment.
Oh yeah, they did. He wanted his commission. He would have accepted anything.
Yeah, and so I got a van, and then we put that van to a lot of good use.
How did Lulu feel about that when you just showed up with a van?
She was quite surprised, actually.
Surprised
and yeah.
Okay.
But she understood it, and she understood where we were going with it. But I'll be honest, without that ability to get that card, and that was, I think they started me right off at like 18% interest.
Good Lord.
And we carried that debt for quite a while, where we were just juggling it. And,
you certainly weren't a freeloader. The credit card company loved you.
Oh yeah, they did.
Yeah.
They made good money off of us, So I want to say that as much as we could hate on the credit card industry, they have enabled quite a bit of prosperity, along with putting a lot of people into debt.
Yeah.
But the people put themselves into debt.
Yeah.
Now, we could even have a much longer podcast about this, about the economics of credit cards and how much, people talk about printing money. Mm-hmm. To me, credit card companies literally print money. I mean, because
100%.
There's no actual currency printed. They just hand somebody a card and say, here, we're giving you the ability to buy something for $10,000 or $20,000.
It's ridiculous.
And all the merchants out there accept it,
Mm-hmm.
right? So it's all just digits being transferred back and forth. In that situation, there's no actual cash moving. So that's a form of printing money, in my opinion.
I suppose.
And it allows people to get themselves into quite a lot of debt. But by the same token, there are great strategies out there for managing that debt. And so So we could get into a much longer conversation about, that's one of the metrics of the economy to figure out whether the economy is doing well or not, about how much credit card debt people are holding and how much they're defaulting on it.
Yeah.
But that's a whole other discussion, But the point is that there's no doubt that credit, in the form of credit cards, powers a huge chunk of the world economy.
I think that's a fair statement.
So
fair statement.
That's what we'll end on. So if you're a small business person and you're not taking credit cards, you're losing business. So,
I definitely lost business, so that's why I take them now.
Yeah.
So, all right. Well, good episode this week, man. Find us on turtlesmith.com and at turtlesmithok everywhere. And like and subscribe, please, so we can have more viewers.
All right.
Hopefully more than 2.
All right.
I like it. Season 2, we got to have more viewers.
Season 2. This one is going to be...
What?
I'm not gonna go there.
All right, I think that's a good thing to end it.
You know where I was going.
I think it's a good thing. I think it's time to end it.
Yeah.
We'll see you.
Bye. I was gonna say this will be friction.
This is always annoying to ask, but if you're liking this content, please like and subscribe. It's the best way for us to get more followers and more people engaged in this great business content. You can also follow us on all socials at TurtlesmithOK and find us at turtlesmith.com.
Please like and subscribe.